All
Oh,
right.
we're live. Hey,
We're
all right.
actually live.
People
We're
are
just
popping in. Yeah.
good.
So we were just talking about I'm gonna
Things
offer
you're
you
gonna
up.
do.
I'm gonna offer you all up tomorrow later in the chat, the lessons in chemistry flap copy, because it's gonna be really great to teach from. But right now, we're getting started. All right. So chat is in the chat. I think everybody's got that. Let's see. We're gonna primarily focus on jacket copy or flat copy today. We're really doing this from the perspective of you, the writer. But this has the advantage of being useful down the road.
Yeah, it's not sales copy. We're not ready to sell. You're just working on what the shape of the book and for you and for your reader, but it's not selling yet. Sometimes people get a little ahead of themselves and want to make it snappy and jazzy, and it's not time for snappy and jazzy. It's time just to pull it together so that we can look at it and think about it and decide that it's sitting in the right place on the bookstore shelf. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I love this lesson. It's one of my favorites. It is. It's one of my favorites. When I first started asking my coaching clients to write their jacket copy in some of the first coaching sessions, I thought it was like such a revelation. It's just like, this solves everything. It helps point to what is not going right or what you're not sure about or what you have to decide. And I thought it was an amazing thing. I
It
was hardly
really
the
it
first
locks
person to
you
think of
in.
it, but
Yeah, it locks you in on tone too. As do the comps, which we talked a little bit about last time, and we will probably end up talking a little bit about this time because finding your comps helps you figure out the tone of your jacket copy. But what I've found is that, it's a constant reminder of what you're trying to do in terms of reaching the reader and who you're trying to reach, even before you clever it up and make it salesy. And a constant reminder of what your focus is by not allowing you to put in all the
things, all the things.
all the things.
Yeah, all the things. So, we want to talk a little bit about discomfort. You may be feeling some discomfort with this particular assignment. People will often say things like, actually, it can get quite dark. Well, I guess that means I don't really have a story. Well, I guess that means I'm not really a writer. Well, I guess this means this whole thing is garbage. Like it can get into that dark place fast if you feel like you can't get it or you feel like it's sort of slippery or out of your hands. And I just want to reassure people that if you're feeling that sense of spinning or discomfort, or I don't know, or actually I have to go back to my point, or I have to go back to my super simple story, or I have to go back, to the very beginning, that's why we're doing this. So that's good news. That's not bad news.
Yeah, no,
It's
better
good
to
news.
do it now. Yeah, that's a really good point, Jenny. I feel like there definitely could be, like, if you're getting to this, or even with the why and the point, and you're feeling like, I don't have this, or wait, my story and my why aren't matching up. That's not a sign that you're doing this wrong. It's a sign that you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is to figure that out before you've actually written the book.
Yeah, that's right. So, we actually wanted to do a little poll, and there's not a specific way to do that here in the Substack Live. So, we're just going to ask you to put something in the chat so we can kind of take the temperature of everybody who's here today. So, KJ, do you want to?
How many of you have tried to write your flap copy? And if you are actively avoiding it, we would love to know that too. If you just haven't gotten there, that's fine. But I would
We
love
don't
to
want to
hear.
see it yet. We
Yeah,
just
no,
want
no,
to
no.
know,
Don't
like,
try.
are you feeling good or are you like, nah, I don't want to, or it's hard or scary? Like, yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down. Is there a thumb neutral? I don't know. There is
Well,
such a thing.
not yet. Waiting for us to tell you how. Okay, that's good. We we respect that.
That is good, that is good. Um,
Mm,
all right.
nervous to start, yeah.
Yep, yep.
I've
I'd
done
love
it a
to
few times with each prior blueprint challenge. Yeah, that's kinda
yeah, going in circles,
ooh,
writing
somebody likes
half.
theirs. That's good.
That is good, that is good. Um, okay. Um, just reading some of these comments.
I was working on 2 overlapping books, and it's really just 1. That's that's excellent. I feel like as I look back over, the past no, the novels, especially the last 2 novels that I wrote, I was definitely I feel like the flap copy that I wrote kept me focused on the primary story when sometimes it would have been easy to start focusing on a sort of a secondary piece of it. Um, I found that that was something that was super helpful about it, and also to come to the end of it and really try to figure out what happens to this. So we all have, if you we're really talking fiction and memoir here. I feel like we should have a moment for the nonfiction flap copy, but right now I'm really talking fiction and memoir. Um, what happens to the protagonist, whether that's you or a protagonist? We've all got protagonists who have something about their interiority that they need to change. Some, like I've heard it called the fatal flaw. It's the thing that's keeping them from moving forward in their life and in their story. So the thing you usually end the flap copy with is what happens if they don't, and what happens if they do. Like and I feel like that's a really, again, it's clarifying. And if you have multiple protagonists, oh, that's like a that's just this is, I'm getting into the weeds. Sorry.
Um,
Like to pick one for the flap copy, I would say, or the way if in a romance you usually, sort of merge the 2.
yeah. Um, what I was gonna say for I saw some people who said that they learned some important things while they were trying this out, that they learned that they're not actually writing 2 books, they're only writing 1, or they learned from their comps that maybe they're writing a different genre than they thought. This is why we do the work. This is exactly what we do. So there's no reason to actually be afraid or nervous or anxious or anything at this point because what we're trying to do is gather intel from your own brain about how this is forming up and what you think of it. And when you see it there on the page written down, you think, yeah, that sounds great. Or wait a minute, this is confused. Or yeah, I'm not sure what this is. That confusion is pointing you towards something. So that if you're afraid, it really there's nothing to be afraid of because it's just gathering information, gathering data, gathering intel. So there's no reason to be afraid of that because at this point you can change anything. What I did want to talk about for nonfiction and well, let's just level set something about memoir. If you're writing a narrative memoir, meaning it's a straight up story, it's just a story that you're telling, most of what we say about fiction will apply to you where you're the protagonist. So when we talk about protagonist or character, think, okay, that's me, that's memoir, I'm the protagonist. If you're writing a memoir that is veering toward what is now known as a hybrid memoir, so that's a story with some other element. It could be teaching element, it could be a interview element, it could be cultural analysis element, but something that sort of tips it away from straight narrative into, we think of that as more like a nonfiction book. So what we say when we talk about nonfiction is going to apply to you. And for the nonfiction or hybrid memoir group, um, I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody here is writing those things. This exercise is really about putting a frame on the material. Like, where is it going to begin and end? What is the transformation you're trying to get your reader to move through? Many times with the nonfiction, people try to put in way too much material or content. They're just trying to stuff things in, and we're looking for some sense of the structure that's going to contain it. So that's what we're looking for.
So when I think about nonfiction, there's a really recent hybrid memoir, exactly what Jenny's talking about, called Paper Girl, and it is it's by a really well-known and accomplished journalist who grew up delivering the paper in a small town in I can't remember if it's Indiana or Ohio, and she goes back and really considers how that town has changed and how the community that she was a part of has disappeared and why. So that's a great, if you're working in that genre, A, it's a great comp, and B, I'm going to pull out its jacket copy so we can see when we start looking at examples how they framed that. So just
That's such a good idea. I already want to read that. That sounds amazing. And one of the things that jacket copy can do if you're writing memoir is help you realize that your story needs to be bigger than you. So even in what KJ just shared with us about this writer's story, it's already bigger than her memory of her childhood or her memory of her hometown. There's some structural, conceptual framework around that that's making it feel bigger than just that story. So um, that is great. It sounds like we don't have a lot of nonfiction memoir writers on here, but that's okay. We got you. So let's talk about we've talked a little about what jacket copy is and why we do it. I want to talk about what it's like when a reader picks up this jacket copy. We're not trying to write sales copy yet, which is what jacket copy is at the end of the day. It's part of sales copy for your
I'm
for a
going to
book.
time us out for a sec because I'm
Yeah.
recognizing that we haven't really talked about the structure of jacket copy very much yet. So I'd love us to do that.
Okay, let's do that.
It really does usually it's usually a 3-paragraph structure, and it's usually pretty specific in that, and this works in nonfiction as well, in that what we sort of get first is context, and then we get, usually for fiction and memoir, it tends to be a plot heavy middle paragraph that's often got like sort of the grabby bits, the, identical twins or, separated at birth or rivals to lovers or whatever, and then the final paragraph tends to be what's at stake, what has to be resolved and what's at stake depending on how it's resolved. So there is a structure here. Does that seem consistent with what your thoughts, Jenny?
Yeah, totally. And for nonfiction, it's pretty much going to be the same thing. It's going to be, what is the problem you're trying to solve? What is your solution for trying to solve it? And what is the outcome that your reader's going to have? So it's condensing down. I think sometimes the mistake people make is that they try to put way too much into these. It's simple. It's really high level conceptual thinking about what it is that you're writing. And it's why we started with the super simple version last week and started with the title. We're circling around, all of this work is a type of marketplace positioning and where your book is going to sit on the shelf, what else is going to sit next to it. That's where we get to comp titles next. But for the jacket copy, just circling around what it is and trying to choose what it is.
Right. So, and then you had suggested that we talk about what a reader is doing when they're looking at the jacket copy. And even though we're not writing sales copy yet, thinking about what you want the reader to get from this copy is this is worthwhile. Um, you don't have to make the words fancy enough to get a reader's attention yet, but what you do want to do is speak to the reader that you want to pick up your book. So if you are writing um, a wholesome story of Christian boy hockey players who love God and sport, you probably don't want a fan of Heated Rivalry to pick that up. I mean, it depends. Some of them, but you don't want someone who's looking for Heated Rivalry to pick that up. So you actually, as Jenny has said before, you want some people to bail based on what you're writing here. So because if you appeal to the wrong reader with with what you're writing here, you're going to get bad reviews. And I don't mean like, it doesn't really, Goodreads and Amazon, you should all stay out of that neighborhood, but you're going to have disappointed people who are not sharing it because it's not what they meant to read. So that's one of the things that we want to do here. Hey, I'm noticing in the chat, we got a question. How does jacket copy differ from a query?
Yeah, there's 3 things that I wanna say. Thing 1 is, first of all, what we're asking you to do here is different from final jacket copy. So, let's call this blueprint jacket copy. So, blueprint jacket copy, the point of it is we're trying to pin down what your story is, who it's for, what the vibe is, what the tone is, what the conflict is, what the transformation is for the reader. We're just trying to pin those things down. And so it's first draft, early draft, rough draft, just getting, again, that intel or that data down. And
Oh,
Jack,
Jenny. Oh, there you go. You froze for a second.
oh, later jacket copy is going to be sales copy that you will probably be writing with a publisher and a publishing team of some persuasion, or if you're self-publishing, you'll be writing it your own self. But that's sales copy, and it's designed to entice the reader. It's the same thing we're doing here. It's just amped up a little more emotional language or salesy language to hook a little bit harder and to get people in. So that's where this is going way down the road. And what a query letter is doing, what I always say is a query letter has one job and one job only, and that is to get the agent to request your pages. That's the whole job of the query letter. And it's going to use some of the same language. If you get your jacket copy in good shape, you will use it probably in the middle of your query letter. You'll probably have an opening um, hook or line that's a little jazzier than what we're doing here, but it's basically similar. A query is it's part of your sales process for um, getting that agent to want to read your pages. So all of what we're doing here will ultimately go toward the assets that you need to sell your book. We're so far away from doing that. Even if you're working through the blueprint in order to revise a book, you are also still a long way away from that. So at the moment, what we're doing is trying to create something that we like, that makes sense to us, that holds together from a logic standpoint. Oftentimes, what will happen when you start writing this jacket copy is you'll realize that your genre is wrong in in fiction, or you'll realize with nonfiction that the books that you love and that you want your book to be like, and that you hold up, that you're not writing that kind of book, and you have to look at why. So it's really a analysis tool is what we're doing now. I wonder if I answered the question that Jennifer and
Well,
Cindy
the one thing I would
were
add
wondering.
to it, like that's really specific about the question of this versus a query, is
Yeah.
this tends to end with sort of a dot dot dot. Like this tends to end with in the middle of your story. For you as the writer, what you're writing here tends to end with here's the question I'm gonna be wrestling here with. Here's what the protagonist is wrestling with. Here's what you as a reader, if it's nonfiction, will be wrestling with, or here's what I as the memoir protagonist was wrestling with, and dot dot dot, how here's what's at stake. When you're writing a query, you probably need to answer that. That's agents don't that I typically don't like that sort of dun dun dun. Like, how will this end? Even though the point is to get them, probably that's not what you're going to want to end it with. So that's just something.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point. That they're not looking for mystery.
No,
They don't wanna it's not a
they
teaser
want to
for
know that you
them.
know
Yeah,
the answer.
yeah.
So what they want is, um, you know, uh, with my children's future at stake, I decided to reveal the truth about their father, even though it would, uh, you know, defeat their chances at national soccer stardom, because I felt that it was more important to see for them to see me valuing the truth over money. I God knows where that came from, but anyway, so the agent will want to know that you landed this plane, like that you had an end in mind that fits, that resolves the questions. But for this, you're allowed to leave that for the moment because you're going to write towards that. But hopefully, you're not going to write towards it by first writing like the completely wrong book.
Yeah. Katie, do we wanna put in the chat, we sort of hashed out some what should go in these core ingredients, which is a little bit more detail than we gave earlier. Should we put those in the chat? Um,
Ah,
no? Is that too
yeah.
much for the chat?
No, it's that I'm not organized enough.
I can do it. You want me
Okay,
to do
you
it?
do it.
Okay. Uh, we have a little Google Doc we're working on from so
Yes.
here is it gonna come out weird? It might come out weird. Oh, no, it came out fine. That's the fiction one and some the narrative memoir, and here's the, uh, nonfiction one. So that's, something that you can use to guide you as you do this, but I wanna reiterate something. I see this and a lot, and I want to, get up on a soapbox about it before you try this or revise or wherever you are. And what I see is people thinking there's a formula, there's a template. I just have to crack the code. There's a right way. Like I don't understand the format or I don't like they're trying to fit into a little box. And we're giving you ideas for what this shape of this box could be. And in the blueprint book, I give ideas, but this is the work is you finding your way. It's you finding what works for you. You might have an approach to this that is different or that turns our list upside down or inside out or something like that. So don't try to as accomplished as KJ and I both are in both doing and teaching these things, we don't have the answers either. And I can promise you that when we're doing this our own selves, we're going in circles too, and we're struggling too. And we're saying, I don't know, is this the book I want to write? I don't like this. This isn't right. This isn't the vibe isn't right. I don't, we're doing the same thing. So the finding your own way piece of this is really important. So I I say that to um we're not going to give you a gold star necessarily. We're going to help you give yourself a gold star. So
I
we may
do tend to give people like here's a fill in the blank, here's a Mad Libs. That's to get you started. Because
yeah.
if you're a writer like me, it is easier to edit something than it is to create something. So I do find that by starting with something ridiculous, um, I I am forced to do the work myself. And I might add that this is one of the reasons that ChatGPT can't do this for you. It could potentially draft you something. I mean, it could, but you won't like it. But the
Yeah, you'll
reasons
be
you
like,
don't
"What?"
like it
Yeah.
are what's important. That's what will matter, right? That's gonna be key. All these different tricks and Mad Libs this and AI and anything else is just a way to get you to dig in there and do the hard work, that's involved here, because it is hard. This is
It is hard. It is hard. So before we leave the jacket copy part, does anybody want to, um, share one that they've tried? That anybody has a draft of, we can't have 250 words, that's too much for the chat, but maybe just the first sentence or 2 might be fun to see if anybody wants to share that.
Well, while people are getting things together, shall I pop one in here?
Sure.
Okay, so this
Oh,
is
you wanted to look at the, lessons
yeah, this is lessons in
lessons
chemistry.
in chemistry.
Very
Perfect.
fast. All right. I love this because so many people have read this book, and I can read this really quickly. Chemist Elizabeth Sott is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Sott would be the first to point out that there is no such thing. But it's the early 1960s, and her all male team at Hastings Research Institute takes a very unscientific view of equality or take. When she finds herself unwed and pregnant, she's forced out, reluctantly taking a job as the host of the TV cooking show Supper at Six. But Elizabeth has no intention of sticking to the recipe. Instead, she teaches women what they're really made of at the molecular level, and in doing so, dares them to change the status quo. So, a problem with this is that we can't know if this is the original, um, although I think it was. But what I love about it, if you have read Lessons in Chemistry, and I have no idea if the TV show, how well the TV show follows it. But if you've read it, she's not unwed and pregnant. Her husband is dead because he did something stupid while walking the dog that's honestly her fault. And she loved him, but also she had some mixed feelings about him. And there's this whole dog that's like a big part. None of that is in here because what's important is she's a brilliant scientist. She's forced out. She has to take a cooking job. She distorts the cooking job to turn it into what she wants to be. I would add to the end of this potentially that her not sticking to the recipe and distorting it puts herself at risk. And I suspect that the original one maybe had that in it. I think this might be something that's been played with. But anyway, so I would add that. I would say, but when she challenges the status quo, she risks losing, the job that supports her family. And, but if she gives in, she loses respect for herself.
And when you say the dog is not here, wasn't the dog like a point of view character
Yes.
in that book?
Yeah. The dog was
Yeah.
an amazing point of view character that I had such envy over her
Yeah.
creation of. And it's so important. Yeah, as Una says, there's a lot more peril than the copy suggests. I suspect this is a shortened version. It's what I could find, but it's important in that those things are not what would get you to read the book, and they're not. The core is her willingness, is what forces her into a place where she, has to get up and challenge the status quo in front of everybody on TV doing something that she finds demeaning. And that instead of just bowing and doing it and becoming famous as she could have, she has to make a choice. Will she just accept her fame and sort of give up her real identity? Or will she, as we all know, no spoilers, will she valiantly insist on being who she is and push other women to also change the status quo? So what I really love about that one is how much plot gets just, I mean, there's so much plot. So much.
Right. Right. So the lesson here is this is not putting everything in, and that is what I mean. You may not even know what everything is if you're at the beginning of writing your book, but that's not the point. The point is to get the really high level transformation that character goes through. While KJ was reading, I just pulled out. Um, a book that I know she and I have both loved, and the beginning of the Jacka copy for a nonfiction book, which is Meditations for Mortals by Oliver Berkman. So we can look at that and see how, even though it's a different genre, it's nonfiction, that we're getting some of the same thing here. So I'm going to take out the middle portion of this. And I'm just pulling this off of Amazon because the Amazon copy or bookshop.org or wherever you search copy is the jacket copy, basically. So I'm just pulling it out here. But this book is addressing the fundamental questions about how to live. Meditations for Mortals offers a powerful new way to take action on what counts. A guiding philosophy of life Oliver Berkman calls imperfectionism. It helps us tackle challenges as they crop up in our daily lives, our finite time, the lure of distraction, the impossibility of doing anything perfectly, the feeling that the world is spinning out of control. To be either read as a 4-week retreat of the mind or devoured in 1 or 2 sittings, Meditations for Mortals will be a source of solace and inspiration and an aid to a saner, freer, and more enchantment filled life. In anxiety inducing times, it's rich in truths we have never needed more.
So what I love about this is 2 things that are really important. Um, imagine young Oliver Berkman, not famous, okay? And coming up with this. Oliver Berkman has embraced and accepted the role of the expert in this and positioned this as the advice that you need, and then has made these promises. This is going to help readers tackle challenges. The challenge of finite time, the lure of distraction, the impossibility of doing anything perfectly. I mean, that was undoubtedly what he wanted to do with this book. So if you were writing something totally different, you could take this and say, okay, I got to say, here's what I'm going to address, and here's what's going to help my readers to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a really great thing to do when you're writing your own jacket copy is to go look at others, see what they do, borrow what you like, and that's a good way to begin to make it your own. And again, don't look for an answer or a right way or, that there's some external validation. You're looking for that you love it and that then it's something that there's a there. That's what we're going for. So let's turn and talk a little bit about comp titles and why we're doing them now. Because comp titles, for those of you who may not know, means the word comp actually means different things. What do you think it means, KJ?
Comparable.
Yeah, I mean that's the I've heard people say like companion or like there's another word people
Competitive.
sometimes
A lot of people
competitive.
you're at competing titles.
Yeah.
Is not what we're trying to get at all. Here you're trying to look for books that either that do something similar to what you're trying to do. I don't know, suddenly I got a little thrown off because I'm just thinking about when you're doing nonfiction, you kind of want, here are all the books that are kind of close to this, but mine is going to be better or different because of X. When you're writing fiction, you really actually want, here are the other things that these readers will have loved, or that's a piece of what you want, or this is going to have the spirit of X, but a plot that's somewhat similar to Y. That's another way to think about it. Yeah. So
Yeah, and at this stage, again, when you're going out to agents in a query letter, the role of comp titles is very specific, and it's very different actually than what we're trying to do here now. You may have the same titles at those two different stages of the process, but when you're in the query stage letter, what comp titles are, the agent and the editor at the publishing house are going to get those comp titles and they're literally going to go look them up to see how many of those books sold. That's literally what they're doing is um, trying to gauge how many copies of this book they think they could sell by looking at the comp titles. And they have access to data that we don't have, and so you're kind of playing this guessing game of positioning your book in such a way that it's a sales tool.
but
But
that's
at this,
later.
that's way later. At this stage,
Now, you're kinda trying to use these to say, "Okay, what do readers of this genre expect to get? What
yes,
do the readers that I wanna reach want in a book? What did they love in a book?" So, I mean, I had told you the last time we discussed this that you can't use something like Harry Potter with an agent, and you can't. But the truth is you could use it here because what it says is, "Man, people really loved that book. What did they love about it, and what about it is the kind of thing I wanna make sure that I have in my book?" You can use it in your heart. You just can't
yes.
use it in your letter.
Yes, and actually, the reason I thought of Meditations for Mortals as an example is that is a comp title for the book that I'm writing, and the book that I'm writing is a book for writers. If you've been listening to hashtag I'm Writing podcast, and I hope you have or will, I've been doing Write Big sessions, and the Write Big book is a work in progress, but the Oliver Berkman book I hold in my heart as a comp title because I wanna do his is a book of philosophy. It's a book of, better living. It is a there's very little overlap in terms of content, but the spirit of what he did there really spoke to me, and the structure of what he did there really inspired me, and so that became a comp title for me when I was writing. It became actually the thing that unlocked the whole book of what I wanted to try to do. And so that was my first comp title. It did actually end up in my book proposal, even though it is not. I saw somebody say in the chat, comp titles are similar books. Not necessarily so. That comp title ended up in my proposal, even though, again, the Venn diagram of where it overlaps is quite small. So at this stage, you're looking for the books that help you frame what you're trying to do and help you position it. Because what we're trying to get you to remember is a book is not, well, this is where it gets philosophically really tricky. We want you to write the book you want to write. That's the only book that is worth writing. It has to be the book that lights you up, the book that you're dying to write, the book that you will give everything to, the book that you will push through when it gets hard because it's going to get hard. We want you to write that book. It's really the only book to write. And we want you to think about your reader and the marketplace. Because if you don't, if you just go write whatever you want, odds are really good it won't have a place and it'll be hard to sell. People won't know what to do with it. And so we're asking you to do both things at one time. Write the book you need to write, the book in your heart, the book that's going to bring you joy to create, and think about who is your reader, where's it going to sit on the shelf, what other books could you compare it to? So that's what we're asking you to do is now to look outside. And the specific assignment is go to the bookstore to do that. We asked you to do that when we were looking at titles as well. But now it's like, where would this book sit on the shelf? And if your answer is, well, my book is so special and unique and unusual that it doesn't fit in any of these bookshelves, that's probably a problem. if the answer is, well, it could be here and it could be there and it could be the other place and it could be these 10 places in the bookstore, also a problem. Some books end up sitting in a lot of different places in a bookstore, but that's not a really good way to do the work we're trying to do right now. We're trying to get you to choose where would this book sit. So that's what the comp title work is really about. Um, do we want to say anything else about that?
Uh,
Does anybody have any questions? The chat has gone so quiet.
it's so quiet. No one wanted to share any flap copies.
I know they were very reticent. Maybe they haven't done it yet, which is
I don't I
fine.
don't blame anyone. Flap copy is super hard. I wanna throw in, uh, I just sort of I'm gonna throw in, hmm, I pulled a whole bunch of them. What should
Kim, I wanted to respond to what you're saying.
not ready.
On comp titles. Technically, yes, when you go out to query, you want those comp titles to ideally be in the last 3 years, published in the last 3 years, sometimes maybe the last five. And the reason for that is what I said before. They're looking at actual um, sales numbers, and in publishing, if not in regular life, 3 or 5 years ago is like a lifetime ago. It's like at this point, what is it, 2025? I mean, 5 years ago, we were in the middle of the pandemic. Like, it was just a really different time in publishing and, really, really different, situation. So they do have to be recent. But for the blueprint, choosing comp titles, you can choose whatever you want. You can go way back in time. You can go 20 years back if you want to some classic something, classic text, or 10 years ago or 15 or whatever. It's again, it's you're trying to get a sense of what you want it to be. And there could be a place for such a thing. I For example, for the Right Big Book that I'm talking about and that I'm working on, an obvious comp title would have been um, The Artist's Way, which I think has had its 30th anniversary recently. So it would not be an actual comp for sales purposes, but in terms of framing where that book sits in the universe, it would be silly for me to not think about that book. It's still a huge seller. I just noticed at my yoga studio that they're starting a Artist's Way, 12-week thing. Like, it's still out there. It's still really beloved, and my book circles around what that book is doing in a very different way. So, it's not a comp per se, but for the blueprint, it absolutely belongs, if that makes sense. Um oh, look, Kim was brave and
Yep, but we're limited, it cut her off because it keeps cutting us to off too when I wanna to, um when I want to alright, we'll let Kim keep going, and hopefully we'll have
yes.
hers in a second, but meanwhile, I'm gonna finish the one of this memoir because this is a fairly new memoir out called Strangers that's getting a lot of buzz, and it's a little yeah, it's tough to share in the comments is what I'm learning 'cause it limits the number of characters. Oh, well. Alright, um, I put the first 2 paragraphs I've got here from Strangers are the context. I skipped the middle paragraph, which was kinda or no, I left so then I skipped the last one. So then the next one I'm giving you are what she does in the memoir. She revisits her marriage, searching for clues that her husband was not who she always thought he was. As she does that, she reckons with her family history and the lessons that she too intuited about how a woman is expected to behave in the face of betrayal. I didn't I missed there was a pasting problem. The point is, through it all, she is transformed. The discreet, compliant woman she once was, someone nicknamed Belle the Good, gives way to someone braver, someone determined to use her voice. So that's a really amazing end for something like this, and something any memoirist out there should think about. The words that I want you to just take away from this and engrave in your soul are these: through it all, she is transformed. That's key.
Yeah, no matter
Whatever
what
you're
you're
reading,
writing.
it's gotta be that.
Yeah,
Gotta be that.
yeah. So let's see, did Kim get her whole
Emma's
thing
not been
in?
able to finish hers, but we do have Dimitri.
Um, okay, so Dimitri says, "Take a spin with mandalas, orbs, medallions, rings, and discs that explore the circular logic and rhythms of rotational symmetry." Dmitry Syed Shami, I hope I'm saying that right, reveals the whorls and worlds of his quirky imagination in over 100 orbital meditations born as doodles drawn on his digital tablet. So this is charming and also tricky. I'm like, do I know what rotational symmetry is? What do you mean by take a spin? Am I gonna draw? Is this a book to inspire me to draw, or is it a book where I'm meant to see what you draw and meditate on them?
Well, mandalas are usually things people color in.
Oh, medallions.
No, mandalas. It's a
Well,
specific thing.
but he
I
says
know.
medallions.
Well, I think they must be mandalas that take different forms.
Yeah, I don't know. You can see though we're a little confused, and we don't want to be confused. There's something very cool going on here. I love that there's 100 of these, and I want Dimitri. What I would suggest if I were coaching you on this would be speak to your ideal reader, and maybe your ideal reader is not me. Maybe they are very well aware of what rotate.
Oh, Jenny froze. But yeah, we may not be the ideal reader, but and I love this description of what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
Yeah, you probably need to tell us what. Well, this is a tough one because we're always kind of arguing with people with the first pages on Book Lab that you can't count on people knowing your genre or your title or anything really, and I think that's true. But if this is an art book or a form of coloring book, which I suspect it might be, I think you probably can
maybe.
consider looking at it. Although, maybe they're on Amazon. Maybe you want to say if you want whatever this is,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
something along those lines.
And
Poor
one
Kim
other
is
thing that
never gonna let her paste in this whole thing. She's
one
gonna
other
give it
thing
to us in chunks. Oh, here we
one
go. Oh, no, that's
wait, but
more bad.
I wanna say something, more about Dimitri because it's important for everyone. Um, there's a really important thing with nonfiction, which is you have to be the authority of what you're writing, and when you're talking about doodles drawn on his digital tablet, it sounds like, "Oh, this is just a collection of some guy's thing." Like, I wanna know something like you've done these doodles every day for 3 years, or you are, I don't know, a math teacher who teaches geometry, or you are a gardener who sees this type of symmetry in nature every day. Like, I want some sense of the authority with which you're bringing this to us, and don't be afraid to own that. That's the last thing I will say. Okay, do you think we have enough from Kim?
We're getting there. I'm gonna start. So, Millie, short for Mildred, is a 15-year-old people pleaser being raised in a 1920s West Virginian coal camp. Although it is a hard life, it is the only one she knows, and she understands the rhythms of her family, the small community, and don't know. When an incident happens in the coal town, Millie's coal miner father insists that she, her mother, and her three younger sisters move away to a dilapidated inherited farm while he and her older brother remain in the coal camp to work. Millie and her mother must learn an entirely new way of life, one inhabited by a whole new cast of characters. Millie finds herself in the middle of hard labor, a graveyard mystery, and a mandated arranged marriage to take place on her 16th birthday. I think we have enough to start talking about this, even though there's probably more. Um, too much context?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's the first thing I would say.
And a really easy way to know if you're doing this or not is I call it the, "and then this happened" test, right? It's like, "And then this happened, and then this other thing happened, and then this other thing happened." It's too many layers for this for what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to capture the heart of the core thing.
And I think
So
we're starting to get it down here in the 4th paragraph that you've given us. And the forcing you to chop this into things for us may be helpful. So Millie finds herself intrigued by her farm neighbor Laura Lee Banner, the peculiar old woman whose stories of the world transport Millie to places unseen. She begins to measure what is expected of her against her newly developing own wishes. When Millie's father returns from the coal camp to prepare for the wedding day, Millie must decide if she should remain his doting favorite daughter or stand up to him for the first time in her first time to forge a new life for herself. So the end is solid. We just got
yeah.
too much going on at the beginning. There's just more than that's kind of more of a plot summary.
Yes, yes, that's a really good, distinction.
And one of the questions that I find myself asking is where where did you start the book? Probably the incident in the coal town, and then they move. Yeah. Um, but I just think you've got too much detail.
Yeah, and I'm also curious about the incident, when an incident happened, is that important to the story? It's hard to know what's important, there's so many details,
Yeah.
and the 3 younger sisters and the dilapidated farmhouse, it's a good plot summary, but it's, why would we wanna reduce it down to jacket copy? The reason is, again, for you, so what is this? Is this the right genre? Am I delivering what my reader is looking for? You can almost just pin that jacket copy, put it on a Post-it note on your computer and look at it and like, "This is the story I'm writing. This is the story I'm writing. This is my North Star." Um,
So the story here, though, is clear. A
yeah,
15-year-old people pleaser meets someone who shows her that there's more to life than pleasing her family and has to choose between uh, being the doting daughter and standing up for what she might really want in life. I mean, I can see it.
yeah,
It's just
totally,
that's good. But
totally.
that so you could just grab that and sort of go on with it. You just got too much detail here.
I wanna answer Phoebe's question, and then we should probably summarize what it is
Oh yeah, we're getting there.
that we want folks to do. So Phoebe's question is, if you're writing a biography and your person is dead, who transforms, your subject or your reader after learning about your subject? Phoebe, if you're here, I would love to ask you what you think because I bet you know the answer. Um, and I'll give you a hot second to reply to that. But I'd love you to check in with yourself and see what you would say. Um, maybe she had to leave or is not here.
No, I'll bet
Uh,
she's still here. She's typing probably.
yeah, we can't see the little dot dot dot, which is
Mhm,
sad because that would
mhm.
be cool if we
Nope.
could.
Yep.
Um, well, we will see what she says, but
Here
um,
we are. I want the reader to know him better and to change perceptions of him. Hmm.
interesting. So that is a transformation of the reader, and you have to have that. You absolutely have to have that. Your reader needs to start in one place believing something or thinking something or understanding something and end in another place with a different understanding. And also your subject may change in the story as well. We don't know. I don't know who it is or what their life was or what it was about. They may also have a arc of transformation, but because it's a lived life and you're presenting it in a certain way, you can't manipulate that, so you have to work with what you have, but likely, people I'm sort of laughing thinking of somebody I know who's never gonna change. Like, sometimes people change, sometimes they don't. But, for sure, the reader has to transform. Maybe also the subject, has to transform.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we do have to end. So let's talk about what exactly we would have you be doing
Yeah, and
this
Mary Beth,
week.
put that in the chat, in the blueprint, and we'll take a look. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
this week's assignment is dun, 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 write your flap copy.
Find your comp titles.
Yeah,
And remember that you're selling to yourself. That's who you're selling to right now. You want to see this book. You want to see the shape of it. You want to really condense it down. You want to make sure that the core transformation is there. And there will be time to expand it out. And uh, do all the selling is going to come later. But yeah, do your jacket copy, do your comp titles. And I do want to also really thank those who shared. That was really helpful. And it helps us to have specific examples that we can respond to. And Kim, we hope that you don't feel like we trashed on all your plot. Your story sounds great,
yeah.
and we just were using it to instruct about the jacket copy.
And subscribers, pay attention to your email because here in about 15 minutes, you're going to get a little cheat sheet for the wording um, of flap copy to keep you from using vague. Because that's we didn't even get into that, but vagueness is the death of this, both for you and later when you want to use it. So I'm going to give you a bunch of examples of vague things like, must face the past. That's a really big one. And ways to make sure that you replace it with something specific. That's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent.
All right.
And please use the Substack chat. I've been in there a lot, so answering questions, looking at people's stuff as I'm able to. I'm popping in there, so use it to ask your questions, to post your stuff. Invite other people to look at your stuff. There's a lot of people here that are doing what you're doing, and you could use them. So
Yeah, I would love to see other people's responses to people's um, flap copy. If after you drop yours in, if you could go look at one person's and give some kind of a response besides "I love this, I would totally read it," that's a great way of being a good blueprint citizen.
that's
All right,
great.
kids, we are right at 7:30. Oh, how do you copy text? I think you can just paste it right into the chat. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think it's just like
you can just
pasting it into anything else.
take a Word document or a Google Doc and copy it, and then you can paste it right in there.
Yeah, and it won't be like this. It won't limit the word count.
Right.
Sometimes you can only see a little bit of it, but then they give you a dot 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 for more, and you can see it all. All right, 7:30. That's the way this week works. We got to check out. So thanks so much, everybody, for being here.